The moment Bronny James stepped onto the court on November 15, 2025 in Milwaukee, it felt like the entire basketball world held its breath. The Lakers had finally thrown him into a real game that carried real weight, a night with pressure thick enough to suffocate even seasoned pros. 10 minutes later, the box score painted a picture that nobody wanted to see. 4 points on 1 of 16 shooting before that night, 0 makes in this one, and an empty scoring column that echoed louder than any highlight could. He went 0 for 2 from deep, barely touched the ball, and never once found the rhythm his father spent 2 decades mastering. By the time he sat back down on the bench, the storyline had already written itself. Fans were murmuring that the league was too fast, too strong, too unforgiving. That the G League was where he truly belonged. And as that conversation spread, another young star was climbing in the opposite direction. Because while Bronny struggled to catch his breath in the NBA, Kian Anthony was out here dropping 40 at Peach Jam as if the ball weighed nothing in his hands. His shots were crisp, his footwork clean, his confidence real. He was walking into Syracuse with his father's legacy behind him, but bringing his own production with every step he took. He wasn't coasting off a name, he was building one. It became impossible to ignore the contrast. One son overwhelmed under bright lights placed on him too early, another rising by proving himself again and again. And so the uncomfortable question began to surface, the one people avoided because of the backlash that always follows anything involving LeBron James. Was Bronny actually more overrated than Kian? And even deeper than that, had LeBron unintentionally set his own son up for failure by forcing the spotlight onto him before he was ready to carry it? Even Stephen A. Smith, never shy with his opinions, was saying the quiet part loudly. And after that November 15th performance, arguing against him became nearly impossible. With LeBron, Marcus Smart and Rui Hachimura all out, JJ Redick gave Bronny his big moment and started him against Milwaukee. It was only his second career start, and the first one where the pressure wasn't symbolic but real. But the moment swallowed him whole. 10 minutes of game time were enough to expose every flaw in his readiness. The Bucks backed off him repeatedly, almost daring him to shoot, to attack, to prove he deserved to be there. Instead, his presence threw off the Lakers' spacing, slowed the offense, and reminded everyone watching just how far he had left to go. What made it worse was that this wasn't a one-game slump. This was the continuation of a trend that had already taken shape. Bronny came into that matchup averaging under 3 points a night on brutal shooting numbers. 29% from the field. 25% from 3. Barely 2 assists. Barely over 12 minutes of playing time. These aren't NBA numbers. They aren't even competitive G League numbers. And yet somehow he wasn't only on the roster of one of the biggest franchises in the world, but actually starting games that mattered. All because of a storyline born long before Bronny ever earned the chance to write his own chapter. Stephen A. had been calling it out since the moment Bronny declared for the draft. He reminded the world that Bronny averaged under 5 points at USC. He had dealt with a terrifying health scare that threw his entire future into question. His college resume didn't say NBA ready, not even close. But LeBron had gone public with his dream of playing alongside his son, turning it into a media saga too big for any front office to ignore. From the moment that narrative hit the airwaves, the league stopped evaluating Bronny for what he was and started placing him where they needed him to be. As Stephen A. put it, Bronny didn't enter the NBA through the draft. He entered through the door LeBron held open. Contrast that with Carmelo Anthony's approach to his own son. When Melo arrived at Syracuse in 2002, he made history immediately. 22 points per game, 10 boards, a national championship Final Four records, and a legacy etched straight into NCAA memory. But he didn't shove Kian into the limelight with talk show statements or media declarations. Melo let his son grow quietly, steadily, letting his play speak for itself. Kian proved himself on the Nike EYBL circuit with nearly 20 points a night. Then he dominated Peach Jam with over 21 per game, including a jaw-dropping 40-piece that sent scouts scrambling for notebooks. Then he led the NBA Top 100 camp in scoring. He built his resume one bucket at a time without needing anyone to manufacture a storyline for him. By the time Kian committed to Syracuse on November 15, 2024, it felt earned, natural, authentic. Not a spectacle. Not a forced narrative. A young player choosing a path that matched his ability, supported but not pushed, guided but not controlled. He entered his father's alma mater with pressure, yes, but pressure backed by performance rather than expectation. And that's where the comparison to Bronny becomes painful. Bronny's defenders love to bring up his cardiac arrest, his recovery, the weight of being LeBron's son, and the aggression of critics who never seem satisfied. But even with all the sympathy in the world, one thing remains unavoidable. He isn't producing. Every missed shot becomes magnified. Every timid possession becomes an indictment. Every empty box score becomes a headline. And every bit of that pressure circles back to one place. LeBron wanted the father-son NBA moment more than the NBA needed Bronny on a roster. And instead of letting Bronny build confidence, grow slowly, or dominate a lower level before rising, the Lakers skipped steps. They put him under lights he wasn't ready for, and now he's paying the price for decisions he never made. Kian, meanwhile, is earning everything that's coming his way. Analysts point to his frame, his shooting touch, his advanced footwork, his clean mechanics. They point to real numbers, real performances, real moments. Bronny's supporters point to patience, potential, and maybe later. One path is built on production, the other on hope. And that leaves the unavoidable conclusion staring everyone in the face. Bronny James is more overrated than Kian Anthony. Not because Bronny lacks heart or effort or potential, but because his situation was shaped by influence, not accomplishment. Kian is rising because he produced. Bronny is struggling because he was placed where he had not yet earned the right to be. The fallout is tough and it's only beginning. Bronny's 0-point start wasn't just a bad game. It was a confirmation of what whispers have been growing into shouts. He's not ready. The league moves too fast. The expectations are too high. And LeBron's dream may have unintentionally placed more weight on his son's shoulders than even he could have foreseen. Meanwhile, Kian steps confidently into Syracuse, ready to carve his own name in his own building under his father's rafters, but with his own story fueling him forward. He wasn't scripted into a moment. He fought his way toward one. What do you think? Did LeBron push Bronny too fast into a role he wasn't prepared for? And will Kian Anthony continue rising as the next big Syracuse star? Share your take in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit like, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more deep, dramatic basketball stories coming soon.